In this video, we're going to learn how to read music for the violin or fiddle in about 10 or 15 minutes. This is a quick, streamlined approach that'll get you started on your first couple of tunes. Whether you're learning one of my beginning tunes like Dry and Dusty or Lazy John, for instance, both of which are posted here on YouTube, or if you're in the first book of Suzuki, this will be good for a tune like Twinkle Little Star or Lightly Row. And if you're in the American Fiddle method, a tune like Boil 'em Cabbage Down will work with this method. So this will get you started. Eventually you're going to have to deepen your understanding of written music, but this will get you started on your first couple of basic tunes. So even if you've never taken a music lesson or learned an instrument before, you probably know that we assign the notes letter names, A, B, C, D, and so forth. We're not going to bother with learning the names of all those notes today. Instead, we're going to learn the names of our strings, open strings, the ones that we're not pressing down on with the fingers of our left hand. So from low to high, those strings are G, D, A, and E. And that's when I say low to high, I'm always going to be talking about pitch and not about space or any other dimension. Low to high in pitch. So again, that's G, D, A, and E. An easy way to help you remember the order of those notes from low to high is to think of the Australian greeting good day, except misspell day, D-A-E instead of D-A-Y. Good day. So again, G, D, A, E. Next, we're going to talk about finger numbers. We're going to number the fingers of our left hand 1 to 3. So our pointer finger is number 1, our middle finger is number 2, and our third finger is number 3. That's 1, 2, and 3. The thumb doesn't get counted. We won't be using that much on our left hand. And the pinky we'll use eventually. That's your fourth finger, but we're not going to bother with it today because we don't use the pinky in a lot of beginning fiddle tunes and violin pieces. So 1, 2, 3. So written music tells us two things. It tells us how high or low a note is, and it tells us how long to play it. It tells us the pitch and the rhythm of the note. And all of this information gets written down on what we call the staff, the musical staff. So let's take a look at that right now. The lines on your screen right now are called the staff, or staff lines. Think of these as lanes for your notes to drive in. The lane that your note is driving in will determine its pitch, how high or how low it is. A note that's written down here will be lower in pitch than a note that's written up here. Notes can be written on spaces between lines, but they can also be written on lines. Some of the notes that we'll be playing will extend beyond the staff, and we'll give those notes staff extensions that will go either below or above the 5 lines of the staff. In addition to telling us the pitch of a note, written music also tells us the rhythm of the note, how long we play it, how long we hold that note. So in this lesson, we're going to be learning just a few different kinds of notes. We're going to be learning a quarter note. We're going to be learning an eighth note. And when we write more than one eighth note, rather than using this flag, we'll use a bar to join them. And that bar will go either on the top or the bottom, depending on where in the staff the notes are. But don't worry about that so much just now. And finally, we have a half note. So rather than counting the notes, we're going to use syllables. For the quarter note, we're going to use the word long. For the eighth note, and I'll write 2 of them here and join them with a bar at the top, we'll use the words short, short. That's short, short for 2 of them. And for the half note, we're going to use the word long. I know it's not a real word, but long. And try to say that as one extended word. So if I were to read these notes that I've just written down, I would read them like this. Long, short, short, long. Long, short, short, long. Long, short, short, long. Now let's find our open string notes on the staff. From low to high, we have our G, D, A, and E. You might also notice that the stems of the notes are written differently depending on where the note is on the staff. The stems, you might notice, go up on the G, D, and A strings, and on the E, the stem goes down. This doesn't change the way you read the notes, so you can ignore it for now. One thing you should notice, though, is that each of these notes is written between two lines. Starting with our E, you'll notice here we have a line on top and a line on bottom of the note. Same here on the A, a line on top and a line on the bottom. And on our D, we have a line on top, and because we're at the end of the staff, before we start using extensions, a line is implied. And again, same with the G string, which is at the bottom of even our extensions. The note is between two lines. At this point, I would like you to memorize where the open strings are on the staff. We're going to be using them as landmarks as we start reading music, so it's important that you know where they are. Some of our notes will be written on the lines, and when we're just starting out on fiddle or violin, these notes will always be played with the first and third fingers. So when we see a note that's on a line and we know that it's either a first finger note or a third finger note, we have a 50-50 chance of guessing the note correctly. You're welcome. So let's take a look at our fingerings as we go across the strings. So our lowest string, lowest in pitch, is G. And these are our two notes, first and third finger notes on the G string, G1 and G3. Next up, we have our D string, our second to lowest string, lowest in pitch, and we have D1 and D3. Moving along, our A string, our second to highest string. We have A1 and A3. Finally, we have our E string, our highest string, E1 and E3. So you can see that our rule of thumb applies across the board. First and third fingers are always written on a line of the staff. We already know from memorizing the position of the open notes on the staff that some of the notes fall between the lines. In addition to the open string notes, the second finger notes also fall between the lines. So let's take a look at this. On our G string, we have our open G and G2. On our D string, we have open D and D2. Also on our A string, we have open A and A2. Finally, on our E string, we have open E and E2. In a few minutes, we're going to be playing a practice piece together. And when we do, you're going to notice on the sheet music, which will be on screen, that there are a couple of symbols that we really haven't discussed yet. And let's do that quickly. This symbol here, farthest to the left, looks like a fancy S. It's called a treble clef. All fiddle and violin music is written in the treble clef. Next to it, you'll see what looks like a pound sign. I guess it is a pound sign, but it's also called a sharp. And when it's written next to the treble clef like it is here, it's called a key signature. Eventually, this will be important information, but for your first couple of tunes, you're generally going to be playing notes that correspond to the pieces of tape that your instructor or that I put on your fingerboard at the first lesson. Eventually, the key signature will tell us to put our fingers in other positions besides those three, and this key signature will become important. For now, just file it away. This will be something that you'll be paying more attention to as you advance. Finally, we have this fraction to the right of our key signature. This is called a time signature. And the time signature tells us how many notes we're going to play in a measure. A measure is simply the space between two of these vertical lines. I'll draw an arrow there to make that even clearer. You'll see that the staff is divided into measures like this. What this is telling us, what the time signature is telling us, is that we can play 4 quarter notes, and that 4 is a quarter, 4 quarter notes in the space of a measure. So you remember our quarter note was the very first note that we discussed. It's the one that we gave the syllable long. Well, if we were to use numbers, we would just simply count that as 1. So if we had 4 quarter notes, we would count them 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, I think it's easier to use syllables when we mentally count through a piece of music when we're just starting out. That's my preference at any rate. That was my experience when I was just starting out. But just know that the time signature will eventually be important information that we'll be paying attention to. But for your first couple of beginning pieces, your first couple of beginning tunes, don't worry about it at all. Actually, you'll be in a world of 4/4 tunes at the beginning. Chances are so. Next, we're going to work our way through a short piece of music, phrase by phrase. I'm going to show you the phrase written down first and give you a chance to play it. And then I'll play it back to you so you can hear how it should sound and judge how you're doing. So your turn. Here comes the phrase. Okay, my turn. Here's that phrase. Again. Next phrase, your turn. Here's how that phrase should sound. Again. Next phrase, your turn. Here's how that phrase should sound. Again. Next phrase, your turn. Here's how that phrase should sound. Again. If you click on the link in the description and subscribe to my newsletter, my email newsletter, I'll send you not only a copy of the lesson notes that accompany this video, but also a full lesson for another beginning tune that I've done and have posted here on YouTube. I want you to use that that lesson for this other tune as kind of a test, to test your note reading ability. There's sheet music included with this lesson and a video. So what I'd like you to do is to start reading the sheet music that accompanies the video before you watch the video. So work your way through the tune, play it a couple times through, and then listen to the performance at the beginning of the video to sort of test your work, as it were, to see how accurate your note reading ability is at this point. So again, in the description on YouTube, there's a link that you can click. I will give you the lesson notes that accompany this lesson, this note reading lesson. In addition, I will send you an entire lesson for a beginning tune to test your note reading abilities with. Thanks for watching. You can find me at ericonfiddle.com. That's ERIC on fiddle.com. I teach at my studio here in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and I also have some video lessons available on YouTube. So check it out. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. I'm always glad to help.